Hello, it's Tristan here from ZebraInvest, and today I'm sitting down with Julie Ford, and we're running through whether or not you should be using a letting agent and what to possibly look in with one. And you may have seen her previously hidden in lots of different things like YPN, Property Investors News. She's managed to get herself all over the place, but we ended up meeting a little while ago. But what we're going to chat is I've actually self-managed one or two of my properties, and I've also used letting agents for them as well. I was thinking just to ask you a few questions, Geoffrey, but why do you think you would need an agent? Or even with like the changes that are coming up as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really great question because I see a lot of landlords on, social media platforms saying, "Oh, I've had an agent for a year and I'm going to self-manage. All they do is take their percentage. What do they really do for their money?" And actually, that just means you've not got a very good agent, to be honest with you, because a good agent should be there to make sure it's a completely hands-off journey for you as a landlord. And also, they're there to protect you. We've got 169 acts and 402 regulations that govern the private rented sector, and a landlord cannot be expected to know them all. However, the letting agent is your property professional and should know them all. And they're the ones that are protecting you against fines and penalties for getting it wrong.
I've got a feeling there aren't many landlords, many letting agents that know all of those rules.
Well, they can come to me because I do.
So does a good letting agent actually exist in your eyes?
I think the perfect letting agent does not exist, but there are certainly good letting agents out there. And they are the ones that invest in their staff and invest in their processes. Because ultimately, it's a very quick moving world in lettings now. It's not like sales, which sometimes one sale can take forever. Lettings is a very fast-paced industry. And I think the best thing to look for when you're trying to pick your agent is an agent whose staff has stayed around for a little while. If you've got quite a quick turnover of staff, that could usually indicate some problems. Not necessarily problems within the agency, but problems with retention, because you're not going to have the continuity with your tenants and your property manager and you. Suddenly it's a new person on the end of the phone. So also making sure they're investing in training because this legislation changes all the time. We've seen a lot in the last 30
I
years,
was
and
going to say
obviously
weekly at
we've
the moment.
well, yeah, exactly. And now we've got the Renters' Rights Bill coming in. So we need to make sure that our agents are more educated than us as landlords. And ultimately, their personal service to their customers. They have to understand that they're not actually in property as letting agents, they're actually in customer service. The landlord is their client, but ultimately the tenant is their customer because it's them that they're dealing with on a daily basis. So, level of customer service, I think, would probably be up there for me if I was looking for a letting agent.
I think customer service is a massive one because when you look at it and if you get complaints from tenants or maintenance issues, if they've got good customer service in the first place, well, actually, they're probably more likely to report the issue. So then you can then fix it quicker, which some people don't want maintenance issues. But if you get them addressed quickly, then you don't have a bigger problem down the line. Um, and I definitely I'd agree with you. It's like the turnover of staff because there's one or two places that I have used and when the stuff change fairly quickly, you'll get a year down the line and they're asking you the same question they were asking you last year, and you're like, guys, it's simple, but might not be the compliance side of it. But hey, so if you were looking at a letting agency, would you recommend, say, a small one versus a big chain, or how would you kind of, yeah,
I think that's a really great question, and they both come with their own pros and cons. So, an independent agent is going to be much more dedicated to the role because it's their income, it's their baby, it's their reputation. Whereas maybe a national may not have so much passion towards it because ultimately it's not their name above the door. Nationals tend to have more distance from the legal side of it, the HR side of it, because they have departments in head offices that deal with all that. So you tend to find most of the time, not all of the time, that with the nationals, the agents on the ground tend to have less knowledge
yeah,
than the independents that it's their responsibility to be as educated as they can. And also with an independent, they're going to know the area a lot better. They've probably grown up there, they know the landlord of the local pub and everything like
yeah.
that. Whereas nationals, you tend to find they're a lot more dis, disjointed from the community, I suppose. I certainly wouldn't recognise any of my high street letting agents in the local pub, but I'd certainly know my independent because he's divvying around in other things in the
Yeah.
community. So they have their pros and cons, because you've got the independent may not have a staff member for every role. You may have someone trying to wear all the hats.
Yeah.
They're the director, they're also the lettings negotiator and the accountant and the property manager. So sometimes the wheels can fall off a little bit there. So I think ultimately you've kind of got to interview your letting agent, really interview them for the job of your agent, and just make
Yeah.
sure that they tick all the boxes and fit the bill.
I think you've done far better than I have then, because I've used. It's been funny in the past. I used to work for a company, yeah, a company in London, and we used to run a rent-to-rent portfolio. And one of the interesting bits we had with it was when we went to one of the companies we took from was one of the large, very large chains across the whole of the country. They've got different brands in different areas, and but they had they have one girl working in head office somewhere who was their property manager, and that property manager is responsible for, I think it was something like 500 properties. And but the thing is, on that scale, she doesn't never actually left the office and saw the properties. It's obviously a system that
Mm.
says, okay, well, you need the certificates, you need this, that. But it's constantly a conveyance, a constant machine. But in doing so, it lacks any of the personal service. And actually, when you're trying to get things done, it's probably as frustrating as it is for them as for you, because they don't actually get to see the guys who's going out, and they never see the properties. They don't know the standard of them. But on the flip side, I used a small agent, a very small agent. So there's a friend of mine at the time in Portsmouth, one of my houses down there, and this is where I've got a rogue agent. So you might have an idea or even a solution to this, because we haven't spoken about it. And he went completely rogue, as in I instructed him. He's gone out, advertised it, found me four lovely tenants the first year. They all moved in. A year later, it came back round. And I was like, well, how's it been going? How's the students been getting on? Anyone else moving in? How's the HMO going? And we didn't get a tenant. Supposedly, we didn't get a tenant. And then at the last minute, he said, oh, I've got four students who've just graduated from university. They want to all move in together. Are you happy with that? I was like, whoo, we got tenants. Anyway, little did I know, he didn't move in tenants. He moved in. I ended up having a house of multiple cannabis plants. So we ended up having five different rooms, all growing plants. And I went specifically down the small route because I knew it was trying to support someone with their business, and it was also someone who resonated with me. And I knew they were trying to grow and scale their business. And they were also quite good at what they did. And they've worked for a lot of other agencies in the past. But so I think when I kind of looked at now the very small versus big, I think the big I'll still avoid. But I think what I'd probably say is established is probably a better answer.
Mm. Yeah, I think established is really good, because reputation is everything in this industry. You get it wrong once and your Google review is all over. It's everywhere. And especially if you're in a small town or a village, rumor runs quicker around there than good news certainly does. So yeah, established and reputation, I think, are really key. And it's a shame that this friend of yours wanted to grow his business, but clearly grew it in the wrong direction. He grew a cannabis farm instead.
So if you were using agent, I think you've already just kind of answered there. So you'd kind of use someone who's probably local, established, and probably with a few different people in the business rather than just one head honcho, or mainly on the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Because lettings is quite complex at the end of the day. It isn't just as easy as, there's a property, handing the keys over to a tenant, and that's kind of it, collect the rent every month. It isn't that easy anymore. There's so many complexities that go to it. So you definitely need, if you're going for a smaller agent, you definitely need someone who's got a few different departments. So at least one person in accounts, separate from the people doing lettings, separate from the people doing property management, because the three don't really interjoin if you're trying to do them all in one head.
No, definitely not. All right, well, Julie, thank you very much for sitting down with me today. If anyone's got any comments or any questions, please drop them in the below. Hopefully you've liked this video. Subscribe to the channel. We've got a couple more videos coming as well. So if you fancy sticking along for that, be my guest. But thank you very much. I'll catch you later.